Ciao ragazzi, Alessandro here. So, on the internet there has been a lot of debate about the infamous sword carried on the back. And for what I have seen, all the different people have made interesting statements about it, but in particular, some have brought to the attention interesting historical and archaeological documents. Apparently, all the discussion on YouTube started with the video made by Lindebeige 10 years ago, and the theme followed until this very recent development, shifting from the impossibility of doing such a thing to the more careful statement that it was done in some occasions, but not every day and definitively not in Europe with long swords. In fact, the subject is more complex than what it seems. Aside from the fact that it's mainly a Hollywood thing, with some reasons that we can argue about, that you will find in a nice video made by Todd Cutler, a professionist that makes reproductions for films and TV series, like the last Netflix film on Robert the Bruce. Todd, in this video, basically explains why it is done in the movies and for what purpose. Mainly because in this way the sword it doesn't move, and I will say also because it works when the camera focuses on the top part of the actor. In this way you can clearly see the sword above the shoulder level, a thing impossible to do if you use the same shot but with the sword at waist level. This way you can clearly see the face of the actor and the fact that he is a warrior, as he is carrying a sword. So, as you maybe have already understood, this thing is useful for movie directors and for video makers, but is not common in the iconography from the past, especially in medieval Europe. But except for the ones already shown in other videos like Schola Gladiatoria or Scalagrim, I will show you some archaeological proof that documents that this way of carrying the sword was done, at least in the Bronze Age, of a specific region of Europe. You don't know me, but I am an author and I have written quite a few books about Sardinian prehistory. I've got a bachelor's degree in natural sciences and a master in prehistory. I'm not sitting on a high horse here, I'm just telling you my background, so you can check by yourself if you want to go deeper into the sources. But I'm telling you, most of the material on the subject is in Italian. In fact, I think that this is one of the few videos, if not the only video, about Sardinian bronze statues. Long story short, after watching all these videos of people arguing about swords on the back, I've thought that I needed to make a video about the archaeological evidence from Sardinia, which is sadly not very famous, but that I know it very well, as it is my main subject of study. I should point out that most of the information spread by different and bigger YouTube channels like Schola Gladiatoria, Lindebeige, Scalagrim, Shad, Night Square, Swordpart or Metatron or whatever is mostly correct, but except for one video where it is shown a series of statues from the Yorkshire that has made Scalagrim. These statues are from the Iron Age, and they show the sword on the back, but there isn't much evidence that I'm aware of, except of this case. So, except for the Sardinian statues, which are astonishing for the detail they show about this particular way of carrying the sword. In fact, the scabbard is not diagonal, like from hip to the shoulder, but is vertical and straight. The sources are these tiny statues of a few centimeters. Some are high, also a maximum of 40 centimeters, but they are like very rare. And these statues show mainly warriors. I should mention also the stone statues from Mont'é Prama, which are 2 meters tall and nowadays are considered the first evidence for statuary in the Mediterranean, even before the Greeks. The Nuragic civilization started in the island about the 18th or 17th century BCE and ended about the 6th century BCE. Statues and bronzes are from the final part of the development of this culture, about 1000 BCE and the 8th-7th century BCE. I have dedicated my first book to the analysis of the armor and weapons of these warriors, and before of that, on my bachelor thesis about trauma and combat wounds from the Bronze Age in Sardinia. If you're interested in it, I'm trying to do a crowdfunding for a translation. Check the link below. In the statues, you see this way of carrying the sword, especially in the archers, which have something on the back that is called a quiver group, a complex of quiver, scabbard, and small containers of different shapes. The quiver was immediately recognized, but the sword was identified only in recent times by the archaeologists. It's interesting to consider that one of these swords has been found, and his length is only about 60 centimeters. In fact, as many of you will know, for being extracted from the back, the sword can be much longer. It can be no longer than the distance hand to shoulder of the bearer. Otherwise, it will be impossible to extract. To be honest, also other Nuragic warriors with the shield have 2 rings on the back, which are considered somehow useful to carry the sword, but I'm skeptical about it, as I think they were used for inserting flags or banners, as the Japanese or the Mayas did. Anyway, this can be a matter for another video. I hope this few information will spark your interest in this culture, and maybe we can talk about it on a next video. Cheers guys, ciao!